Hi, my name is Lindsay and I'm the Children's Church Director here for the Mile High Vineyard. And I'm excited to get the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about our preschool curriculum and what it is, why we use this curriculum, why we use what we call True Fire Wonder. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of the curriculum just to help familiarize yourself with it, so that when if you're just becoming a teacher within our environment or even just helping, this will just help you. Like I said, familiarize yourself and just get really comfortable with what's happening. So, like I said, the name of the curriculum that we use for our preschool is called True Fire Wonder, which I love because when I think about preschoolers, like wonder is probably the word that sticks out to most to me about who they are. They just are always very curious about things, they're always asking questions. Um, and so, we want, and this curriculum is just really built to help inspire and create that wonder about who Jesus is and God. And so we just want to continue on with that. So that is what I love about True Fire Wonder. So, okay. So here is what it looks like. And this is the front page. So just so you know, like here, this, for your own personal, like these are the passages in the Bible that we're going to use. This is kind of the story. And then this is the date of the curriculum. So this will help you know, like, am I on the right week? Am I not? And just overview real quick of like, hey, what exactly are we teaching? Okay, there it is. This right here where it says God is so good. This is important to know because this is basically the main point we want the kids to know for the morning. And the great thing is, as you look through the activities and the story and stuff like that, as long as you're doing things and it's connecting to like, hey, God is so good, you can even use that as you're just playing with the kids on the floor. It's like, hey, like that's so good. So is that. Who else is good? God is so good. Just to really continue to connect everything that they do to this main point, and that is God is so good. This is just a review of the remember verse. And then this here is your schedule for the morning. And this, I typed it out this way just to kind of help give you guys an idea of like, okay, we have one activity here, 4 here, 3 here, the blessing, and then we're done. So this is just a great overview of what the morning is going to look like for you. And then, we have our 7 Kid Venture values, the 7 ICMN. So all of our lessons, every single one of them will always connect to one of these Kid Venture values because that is ultimately what we want the kids to be able to know and internalize. And so I just write it out for you guys so you guys can understand like, hey, how does this follow along with what we want kids to do? So it's like, I follow God's plan for my life. Because God is so good, I know I can trust him and I can follow his plan for my life. So just so you know that, and someday maybe there'll be a section in here that writes it out. Sometimes when I have extra time, I do write that out to help you kind of like connect the two in your brains. But if you ever have a question about that, you can ask your coordinator and they can ask me or something like that. So the first part about this curriculum that I love is that they give you just little devotionals for yourself. So the Inspire, Equip, and Support sections are designed just for you guys. So these are just quick little devotionals to give you additional information about what you're teaching the kids, some thoughts. Because the reality is if we want to teach something, we have to, not that we have to perfect anything, but we have to at least be willing to engage with it ourselves. So, the greatest God is so good. So, hopefully these will lead you into thinking like, hey, how is God? How has I seen his goodness in my life? How do I see his goodness even when things go bad? These are great, whether you're a brand new Christian or even if you've been following Jesus for a while, like I still look at these and I still get a lot out of them. And so they're just really good no matter where you're at in your journey. Cause you might learn something new. Like I remember one of the curriculums you were telling the story of Jesus or Esther, and they're like, do you know like they actually don't mention God in the book of Esther? And I was like, I actually had never known that, and so that was actually really cool to read about before I went and taught it to our elementary kids. So take time, read through that through those sections because you just may really find them interesting. All right, so the curriculum begins off with what they call an explore section, and this is kind of like a welcome activity. You can do it while kids are checking in, or you can wait till all your kids are checked in. I wouldn't wait too long. This is something that you can do like with a group of kids as the other kids are, some are playing, some are checking in. It's just kind of, again, it just gets them started thinking about God, about the story. It just starts to engage them. So after that, you go into Discover. And again, this is the God, it reminds you what the point is. First they do is Chloe's Rules. And that will always come to you guys on a DVD each month. And again, that's just to ensure consistency. So every week, man, you play those closer rules. And that just helps the kids know. It's like, hey, here's the rules for our classroom. This is what we expect of you this morning. So, because, consistency is key. And then also giving kids the guidelines of like, hey, here's what's expected of you is also key. So continuing to remember to repeatedly say that. Because sometimes you have new kids that don't come every week. But it just, again, helps to set the tone for the kids. And the thought of the consistency for the kids is very important. After the Chloe's Rules, we go right into the Remember verse. Now, here's the deal. You guys, when they give you the motions, those motions are actually American Sign Language. I don't know if you guys were aware of that or not, but it's actually teaching kids another language. So when you sit here and like, if you're like, oh, the kids won't do it, first of all, actually they will, because they love motions. I mean, have you ever seen kids do like the hokey pokey and ring around the roses? Like they will do motions to songs. So they will do motions to memory verse. But and especially when you say, hey guys, like, do you know you're going to learn like another language so you can speak to people who can't hear? Like that's actually really cool. Like I actually am like, I want to learn like sign language and stuff like that. So really, really, really cool. Um, the thing to remember is like, okay, well, this memory verse is long. Actually, no, you guys, it's not that long. Will it take kids a while to memorize it? Yes. Can they? Most certainly. Because you know how I know? They can sing every single word to Let It Go from Frozen. So I know these kids can memorize the memory verse. We don't have to sit here and make it short because we think the kids are young. I think they can actually get it. So, but what's great is you don't have to feel like you have to hit it all in 1 week, right? So they're like, maybe for the first week you do For the Lord is Good. And then the second week, His love endures forever. And then the third and 4 weeks, you put it all together. And this, again, you're breaking it up. Our kids are capable. They can do it. I believe it. One of my locations, my preschool teacher, she loves this so much that she actually takes this section of our curriculum and prints it out to send home with parents so that they can practice it as well with their kids. So it's just a great way to, again, to equip parents, let them continue to work with their kids because they just love it so much. After that, we have a section called the Wardrobe of Wonder. And then usually this comes with a big black and white box that your location was given when we started this location. Every time someone starts it, you guys get a box. It may not be black and white, but it is right now. And what it is, there's usually a picture or something that we put in the box. And the point of that is, again, to start get the kids like wondering, like excited about what's the story. So, for this one, it's like, oh, it's a great big thank you card. So, you're like, you invite a kid out, like, hey, let's peek in the box. What's in there? You're like, ooh, and all the kids are sitting there like, oh, what is it? What is it? And then you pull it out. It's like, oh, great big thank you card. And then you're kind of like, and then gets the kids thinking, like, what does this have to do with Jesus? Like, what does this have to do with our story about God? Like, why are we going to learn? Like, why would we have a big thank you card? So it's really, really great just to get the kids started. It's really quick. You could do it in like 5 minutes or less. But again, it just really gets the kids start thinking, like, oh, why do you think our thank you card's like important? And then that ties into the big God story. So again, you got the big God story here. It'll tell you here again, here's the Bible passages, the point, and the storytelling technique. So here's the deal, you guys. Here's what I love about this curriculum. Is every week the way we tell the story is different. And why I think that's important is because it gives the kids different opportunities to engage with the stories in different ways. And the more ways we use their senses, the more it's going to actually connect with them. So, different kids learn in different styles. So using different techniques helps, all the kids learn. And it's fun. It makes it different. It's like the same because you're always telling a story, but it's different in the fact that you use different ways to tell it. So it makes it feel more fun and more playful for the kids. And by using a storytelling technique and not just telling a story, is you're actually engaging and getting the kids to participate in the story, not just be a bystander. And that's what we want. We want kids to realize that they are a part of God's big story and that they get to participate and that they can learn through it too. So, we don't want kids to just sit there passively like we're in school and like the teacher's like lecturing them. No, like we want them to realize like, hey, you're a part of this too. And we're just facilitating and helping them figure out how they're a part of God's story. So you'll read through it, all the bold print. You guys, listen, here's the deal. The bold print's what you're supposed to say. Now, that's a lot. Or it can feel a lot. It can feel overwhelming. Here's a tip, and we actually have a separate training on storytelling if you want to watch it, if you're feeling stuck. Read through the story. Get the main point. The great thing is we know what the ponder point is, right? God is so good. We're using the story of David rebuilding the temple. So if you read the Bible passages and understand the story, you guys, you can kind of make this your own, okay? You don't have to say this word for word. That's not the point. The point is for you to tell this story in a way that's going to connect with the kids because you know it better. But this is just like, if you're like, I don't know how to say it, I don't know the language you use, this is a great tool to help you figure out, hey, how do I actually say this with the kids? So that's what the point of this is. And you guys, if you guys spend like a half hour before Sunday or before Friday, whenever your service is, to actually look through this will give you the opportunity to be like, okay, like glance through, like here's like the order I'm going to say, here's the 3 main points I'm going to pick out of this, and that's it. So, you do need to actually take a few minutes beforehand, but not a lot. It doesn't take a lot. Sit there with a highlight and be like, okay, I'm going to highlight these 3 sections, and that's it. And if you're really feeling stuck, you can always use like a toddler Bible or something to read from the kids too. But I would encourage you to try this because our kids really love engaging. And they're engaging with it when they actually start to be like, they kind of get out of control because they're getting excited about it. That's actually kind of a good sign. I mean, I know you have to bring them back down and you're like, but I think that's a good sign because that means the kids are enjoying it and they're engaging. And so just remember that. So after the story, we have the response. And I love this, section, for several reasons. Number one, That's what our adults do. I mean, think about it. When we sit in the main service, we hear Jay tell us a great story, and then we get a chance to respond to what God's doing. God's responding, God's interacting with our kids. I fully believe that. And so I love the fact that we give our kids the chance to pause and reflect and to respond what God is doing on them. And these are very age appropriate activities. So they'll just be like, color this thing and stick it to the wall. They're not going to have words or language yet, but you might be surprised. They might. So be ready to like help them. You guys can do this as a large group. You can do it in small groups. But really give the kids the opportunity to respond to God, because whereas this part is all information and it's great and we're engaging the kids, this is mostly informational. It's these experiential pieces that are going to start to get the kids to really get their relationship with Jesus to be who they are, who they want it to be, and not their parents or like not anybody else's. And again, 3 to 5 year olds, they're just exploring what it means to love Jesus. Some are choosing to love Jesus. Some are still like, I'm not sure. A lot of it depends on home life. There's just like so many different things. But the reality is this response piece is key, because this is what's going to help them to connect. And, they're going to be wiggly, and that's okay. That's age appropriate, right? So just, keep that in mind if you think, oh, the kids are going to sit perfectly still. No, they're not, but they're going to wiggle, and that's okay. That's okay. They can wiggle. I wiggle. I mean, gosh, I don't know about you guys, but like, I wiggle. So it's okay. It doesn't mean they're not engaging or they're not participating. It just means they're wiggly, and most of us are. So after we do the response section, it's kind of confusing because we go from response to respond, but this is the chance to then connect the story to them even deeper. So it'll be games, crafts, some sort of activity that the kids for the kids to do, and this is where you can help reinforce the story. I would highly encourage you guys to do these activities, and I know it's very easy to look at it like, oh, our kids can't do this or whatever. I would highly encourage you guys to try. Kids love games. I know kids love crafts, and we always try to have a craft of some sort involved, but kids love games too. I mean, even in the 2-year-old room, they're like, we want to do the Ring Around the Rosie. So, you got to figure out your space and your help and stuff like that. I understand those all things come to play, and, that's why, it's like, hey, like, you could talk with your coordinator if you're like, hey, I'm not sure how to do this activity, but if you're like getting stuck on how to implement it. But I would highly encourage you guys to do these activities. Again, this helps really connect the story. And then it's also, hopefully it's something that if it's a craft or something the kids can take home. And I love kids taking stuff home from church, and not be so parents can throw it in the car and forget about it, because which they normally will do to a coloring sheet. But if it's like an actual like craft or something like that, or like even if it's a coloring sheet that's a little bit more involved, what's great about it is a parent will look at this and be like, oh, what did you do? And the kid will be like, oh yeah, I did this, and this is why we did it. And like, again, they're 3 to 5 year olds, so they're going to explain it in their 3 to 5 year old way. But it's just a great way for kids and families to just even start conversations around what they learned on Sunday, instead of just asking your kid, well, what did you learn on Sunday? And they're like, I don't know. It just helps to prompt them. So after that section, we have wonder questions, and this is just the flow and the order of the curriculum. So this is where there's a coloring page. Yeah, I mean, if you want to do the coloring page with your class, that's great. If you don't, we actually, I don't have it on this one, but it'll actually be starting 1 month. It's actually going to be printed on the back side of your take-homes. So that way, even if the kids don't color it, they can still take it home and color it throughout the week. Because again, it's just a great way for like throughout the week. They're like, oh, let's do a coloring sheet. To be like, oh yeah, how does this connect to Sunday? But with that, there's also this section called Wonder Questions, and they give you 4 different questions. And I love these questions because, again, it helps. Number one, there's like questions that's like, hey, did God always love it? Like, does God always love me? So it's just they get the kids, and it always starts off with I wonder. So again, it's getting those kids to think and to like be willing to explore. Like, I wonder about this. And you can pick one of them, and you can talk about it during snack time. Or, if you have a small group of kids and you feel like, hey, I can sit down and we could talk about it, that's fine. You can even use these like during the craft time. So these are just great questions for you guys to look and review. So that way when you go, as you're interacting with the kids, even as you're just playing with them, these are questions that you can use to engage with the kids about what you just taught them on Sunday. So again, this doesn't have to be a formal, we're going to sit down and talk about it. They're 3 to 5 year olds, but you can definitely use these throughout the course of your class to just really help reinforce what they learned. And then last but not least, there's this blessing. And do not leave your class without having done this section. You guys, this is one of the very few things I'm like, no, you guys really should always do. Because why would you not want to bless our kids? I constantly reminded of the story where, the disciples are like pushing the kids away, and Jesus like, no, let the kids come to me. And then if you read that story, a lot of times we stop at that section, but if you read it, he actually says he takes the kids to him and he blesses them. And so I think it's so powerful for us to get an opportunity to bless our kids. Um, and honestly, anytime I do it to a kid, I also feel God like blessing me in the moment. Like it's just as impactful, if not even more so for myself than it is even for the kids. So do this, you guys. And this can be, again, you guys can do it all together. So right after the story, you could do the blessing. You do it during snack time. You could just, as the kids are playing, you could just walk around individually to a kid and do a blessing. But you guys do this. It's so powerful, so great. Um, and then, so that's the curriculum that you need to know for the morning or for your service, whether it's morning or evening, I guess. But then just so you know, we have this handout for the parents. And every week when you hand it out, make sure you remind parents like, hey, do you know we have this? Don't just assume don't just hand it to parents and assume that they know like what to do with it. Just say, hey, real quick, hey, this is a parent. So this right here is what we learned this week. This is actually where we're going to next week. And then here's like some ways to talk to your kids about it. Because what's really cool is we actually want parents to be the leaders of their kids' spiritual life. But a lot of our parents are like, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure. And by letting them know, like, hey, here's what we're going to talk about next Sunday, and here's how you can do it. It not only helps parents equip parent like and just in how to do it and encourage them to do it, but it gives them something to talk to them about, and it helps them. It actually helps us because then our kids will come in next week being like, oh yeah, I've heard that story. Tell me more about it. So again, it's starting to kind of like pick out that wonder piece for them. And then there's a copy of our memory verse, and then we also do a blessing for our parents. So again, hand this out to our parents every week. It's just a really great tool to give to them. So thank you, and I can't wait to hear about the amazing stories God has for our preschoolers.